All right, welcome everybody to the third stream of DBB Live. Hope you've all had a great day so far. You're excited for the NFL draft going on too, and ready to talk some Detroit basketball. So I'm Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys, and I'm joined, as always, by the Aussie himself, Jack Kelly from Detroit Bad Boys. And Jack, my man, how you feeling tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I know we're competing with the draft tonight, but if you're watching this now on Twitter, come hop in. We've got the legend himself, Bryce, breaking down Wemby's offensive game. So come hop in, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, we couldn't be more excited to be joined by Bryce Simon from Motor City Hoops, host of the Pistons Pulse. He's wearing the swag. We love it. And video breakdown master of Detroit Bad Boys. So, Bryce, you got something kind of new that we're trying out tonight. And you want to just set the stage of what we're about to show?
Yeah, so I feel like we always talk about doing like video breakdown stuff, right? And instead of doing something live in the moment, like where technology could be a little bit more of an issue, I pre-recorded some breakdown on Victor Wembenyama. I did an offensive and defensive breakdown. I can't help myself. All together, it was 12 minutes. So Jack and Wes had to put me in check and like, no, we're only going to show the offensive breakdown. So I don't know how they do it. I'm familiar with StreamYard, but they figured it out. They can make it so the video is going to play through smooth for you guys. So let us know what you think, and I'll do these more and more after the draft. Prospects as we get closer to the draft, and then as these guys crush it all season long, I'll do them in season. If hey, let's look at Killian Hayes' defense from last game or something like that. So hopefully it'll be something that we can do consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive right into it. We're going to play the breakdown. And then right after that ends, just open up the floor for any questions everyone's got. So I will get it all started up for us.
Victor Wembenyama on the offensive end. We're going to start with his three-point shooting. I know the numbers weren't great, but if you look at just true catch and shoot, it's a lot better. And what I like is the different play type. So here, Spain pick and roll, he's actually the fill guy, filling to the top of the key. You'll see a possession later where he's the roll man. Obviously, that's something he can do and something we'll highlight throughout the breakdown. Here, he's going to simply ghost a screen and then able to catch almost like a pick and pop, knock that down. Obviously, true pick and pop is something he can do. But this possession I love. Now, for the Pistons per se, you could have Jalen Duren in the ball screen and Victor stretching the floor. You could have those guys on the floor together. If you wanted this to be Stewart, whoever, it doesn't matter. But now you have Victor on the weak side. He can be over here lifting to the wing, catch, he could attack, but as you see, he knocks down the shot. Now that catch and attack and overall ability to attack off the bounce is an area where Victor needs to improve. Here we see a little bit of a look at that. He attacks the on-ball defender, but look at his first step. He loses his balance, which with added strength will get better, but the step is sideways instead of attacking downhill into the lane. I know spacing, that's something that will help with this. Now as the possession continues, you see what he is able to do and just the overall skill and talent level as he steps back into that knockdown three-pointer. Where I think Victor is really going to be the offensive hub outside of screen and roll situations is operating in the mid-post. This is where I think he's really the most comfortable on the offensive end. Here you see he spins away from the double team and just look at this insane mid-range fadeaway jump shot. We'll see another example here where he actually uses the dribble just to get to the spot on the floor where he feels comfortable, a little bit of a step back, and the release is so high you're just simply not going to block the shot. Here we see him get a block, and then we do see the handle. It's not like he doesn't have a handle guy. You can see it here. Out in transition, makes the little in and out move, gets to the rim and finish. It's just he doesn't really go anywhere with it yet. I'll show that on these two examples. Here you see he's playing with the ball between the legs, cross, but he doesn't really create an advantage and get to the rim. This isn't an overwhelming negative. I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that like true isolation face up from the perimeter isn't really something that Victor Wembanyama is going to do, especially from day one. And it's not something he has to do. Like I said, that mid-post stuff, he can knock down shots from three in a variety of play types, and then obviously ball screen situations. So here, pick and pop, starting from the perimeter, and then we'll work in. This is what I'm really excited about with Victor. He shoots it well enough, you have to close out, puts it on the deck, would have liked a longer first step, but gets to the rim and finish. I'll show that example here. So notice where Victor's at right now. pick and pop. He's going to give the little shot fake jab. Watch where his first step is. For someone 7'4", 7'5", this is a very small and short first step. So one thing I think Victor can get better at, long, explosive first steps when attacking these closeouts. And then playing through this second phase, he doesn't do a real good job playing through contact yet, and he has room to grow finishing with his left hand. Now, with that said, it's not like he never does it. And what he's going to be really good at is in the short roll. Obviously, he's going to catch lobs. I'll show those in just a second. But here, kind of short rolls. And then from the free throw line, takes 1-2 steps and then is able to finish. Again, look where he's catching this ball. And then he's able, without a dribble, to elevate. Here he is using his left hand and finish at the rim. So there's just so many options that Victor Wembenyama gives you when operating as a ball screen guy. Here, the ball handler attacks the defense, collapses it, and then Victor's able to step into that very comfortable mid-range area and knock down that shot. Here's a couple examples where, again, I would like him attacking the rim just a little bit more, especially going to his left. I think the opening is to kind of spin here over his right shoulder, get to his left hand. Instead, he goes the other way and turns it into a tougher fall away mid-range jump shot. Again, I know we can make those, but I'm just showing areas of growth. Here, really nice catch on the move. I think he should just elevate and, again, finish with his left. I think there is definite room to grow in terms of his left hand finishing as he turns it into a fadeaway jump shot. But he can do these things. So here we see him catch again on the move, extends, finishes with that left. And then I love this clip as you see Victor get physical. Yes, he's got to get stronger, but here you see him play through some contact, going to play through the foul, turn that roll possession into a post up and a finish. And then again, guys, he can obviously catch lobs. This is the Spain pick and roll, like I said earlier. Here he's the roll man, going to elevate, and you can throw it over the top of the defense and let him finish. And I want to highlight, this guy is 6'8". I realize Victor makes him look little, but this guy is 6'8", and you can simply throw it over the top of him, and Victor's going to be able to finish. So that is something to keep in mind. And then also offensive rebounds. This clip just has to be shown because he misses a three-pointer, step back three-pointer, and then just the fluidity that he can move with. But, and y'all show this in the defensive breakdown as well, he has to value positioning more. You'll see an example here where he should block out this guy right here for the lob or the offensive rebound. He actually lets him get back inside, but because he's 7'4", 7'5" with the length, he still gets the tip in. I don't think he's always going to get away with that in the NBA. And then one final thing is the passing. Again, you saw a lot of actions getting him the ball in the mid post. And because he's so tall, he's able to make passes that other guys simply can't. Takes on the double team, gets a cutting teammate, gets him a look at the rim. And then he's able to make quick decisions. Again, here in the short roll, he's able to catch, tip pass right out of it to his teammate, gets him the and one. And then again in the short roll, you see kind of the coordination as he's kind of turning both ways, able to come to a stop, throw the behind the back pass to his teammate under the rim. So right away, I do believe and buy into the catch and shoot threes. I think in the mid post, if you want to run kind of isolation, quote unquote, or run the offense through him, and then so many different things you can do with Victor in the ball screen.
All right, so that was the breakdown. Obviously, Jack, just real quick, you got any reactions to some of the ridiculousness we just watched?
Yeah, I think for me, like, the thing that gets me so excited about Victor, like, there's obviously so many aspects. Like, personally, it's on the defensive end, like, from day one in the league. But on offense, that the opening clip Bryce showed of, like, Victor being used in the Spain, that I was often bogey this season. So, like, the idea of running a Spain pick and roll, which is something the Pistons like to do a lot, with Wemby popping out to the three and then Duran rolling, like, to the rim. How do you cover that? Like, if you got Cade with the ball, like, that three-headed monster is, like, personally what I'm so excited for. And then on top of that, it's the passing at 7 foot. He's 7'5", like 7'6", tall. He might even be taller. We don't know, but just because you actually, if he's got the ball above his head, like, there's no one in the league, I don't think, who can actually get in this man's line of vision. Like, and then the clips Bryce showed, like, he can make decisions, he's coordinated. So yeah, like, there's so much to sort of get excited about, but those are the two things for me.
Yeah. And before we get to any of the other questions we've gotten so far, I'm going to be selfish and ask my own question real quick. Um, so his off the bounce game, you kind of broke it down. It looks pretty enticing. How long do you think that might be able to take to really develop and be a weapon? Because that's something. If you got a 7'5" guy that can handle it like he looks like he might eventually, I mean that's impossible.
I kind of wonder in the half court if it ever truly comes around. Actually, Amari's brought this up. Like, he's so tall, right? He's 7'5". It doesn't matter. The handle's going to be so high. And so I just like it looks really cool. I just wonder if it's going to be more of a thing where it's a 7'5" guy who looks really cool. There's some really nice flashes, open court transition. But what the clip that I really was glad it got in there from what I watched was just attacking closeouts. Like the fact he can even put it on the deck in straight lines is enough for Wemby because I do believe in the shot. And I should make a point, Jack, and I should have put it in the video, but as you could tell, I was trying to get as much out as I could. He actually had a negative assist to turnover ratio. So the passing is a little bit more projection than it is practical right now. But to your point, just the angles he can get his hands to is just something that nobody else really has.
Yeah, for sure. Like I feel like with Wemby that I think I agree as well with the handle stuff. Like if that just the sheer height he has to dribble the ball, like how compact can you get that? Because if we're like, I'm sure this might come up later, but if he's playing at the 3, which I personally think that's a bit with the Pistons, but I could also see it happening. Like he's going to have like Mikal Bridges, like name any awesome perimeter defender, like sticking him on the 3-point arc. Like how is he going to get by them with such a high dribble? So I think that's a great thing to point out, Bryce.
I'll say,
I think I'd add to that too. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if he's playing at the 3, I think he's playing in the mid post, like I talked about. I really think if you're running offense through him, any isolations for Wemby, especially early in his career, are going to be in the mid post. And like, I love Mikal Bridges. Wemby has almost a whole foot on him in that situation where he can just turn and shoot over him. So I think that mid post stuff is really where he'll flourish early on, outside of ball screen stuff, of course.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just going to add with the playmaking, the fact that he's so tall and the ball is just necessarily so much higher on the dribble also is going to make all of the passing reads, all the movement of the ball just take a little bit longer, which could, I mean, I don't know, did you see, but that could explain some of the passing things. Maybe he's seeing things, it's just taking a long time to get from point A to point B because it's got to travel so much dang distance.
Yeah, the full games I've watched, like some of the turnovers are bad. He'll have a misread. He'll be late with something, which, plays into yours. I didn't go through and like watch all of his turnovers or whatever to see where whenever you can watch those on Synergy, you can kind of get an idea like where do the majority of their turnovers come from. I didn't do that. But no, I mean, he's got room to grow in that regard. Like I said, you don't have a negative assist to turnover ratio if you're a finished project in terms of that stuff. It's just there's so many different play types. And I wish we could have played the defensive breakdown, at least the part, and maybe we will in a few weeks, where I talk about how much easier he's going to make life on the Pistons guards or whoever's guards he plays for, because he just makes up so much ground in the drop coverage.
Yeah, I think I'm very keen to see this defensive breakdown because for me, that day one as a rookie, I mean, we saw the impact Evan Mobley had as a rookie defensively. Like, I'm guessing Wemby's that, but almost supercharged a little bit. He can move. He's got like Mobley sort of moves with like this fluidity that like I think you could say Wemby has. And yeah, that's the end of the floor. I'm like really excited to see how that pans out.
I'll just say real quick, one of the most I tried to be somewhat critical. Like I tried to show some negative aspects in this. And when I sent it to Wes and his response was, "Oh my gosh, he's so good." I was like, I think that just speaks to how good he is, because I tried to show like he's got to work on his left. He doesn't have these real long strides on his first step. The shot isn't all the way there yet. And you still walk away from it just like mind blown about how good he is. So I think that's a pretty good sign about how generational of a prospect Wemby is.
I just remembered I had a question for you, Bryce, because obviously was he playing in the French league? I think so.
Yep.
Do you think an element of sort of his, you highlighted there how he sort of often, instead of going left or taking the contact going left, he'd elect to like fade away with jumpers, or he'd take some really tough shots at times. Do you think some of that's just being the guy on, I guess, I don't know what tier you would put it, but it's not like the Euro League or at that standard. Do you think some of that's just him being the guy, and maybe when he gets to the NBA with better talent around him, the passing and that could come? Or what's your thoughts on that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think his team strategically put him with Mets 92 so he could have that role. Because if you go watch his film from 2 years ago, obviously he's a year younger, but it's a little different. If you ever listen to people talk about James Najee, so he's a guy that in this draft that will get a lot of Jalen Duren comparisons, and he's playing and he like gets 8-9 minutes a night because of the league he's playing in, and he has all these better guys playing above him. So, over there in Europe, sometimes this is what happens. They specifically put Victor with Mets 92 so he could be the guy. With that said, he still was very unselfish. He didn't force things. He let the game come to him. I was really impressed just overall with how he played. But yeah, I think they definitely put him there so he could kind of, he shoots the one-legged three and stuff like that. Like they put him there so he could experiment with things and grow his game.
Do we buy the one-legged shot? Or do you think that's just like him just going like, I can't swear on, I shouldn't swear on here, but he's just going like, I'm just going to show off here. Like, because that's a tough shot. Like drifting forward, I know he's like an extremely talented player, but like how does that ever become a efficient shot? Maybe he's the guy to do it.
Nah, my guess is it's just like we'll see it in the shot clock. He'll make it. It'll become some internet celebrity shot or whatever. And yeah, you better be pretty efficient with it if you're gonna start pulling that out. I don't know why he needs it. I guess that's my thing. Why does he need it? Like he can just he shoots above everybody anyway. So
right. Well, I think Harden started that whole thing too a few years ago, and I think we've only seen him do it even once or twice. And like he is not shy about trying ridiculous shots, James Harden. So I don't know. I think it's probably just showing off, Jack.
Same. But if there's one guy that probably could bring that into the league and make it a shot, it could be him. We do have one question lined up here, and we can get back to the Wemby stuff after, but I just wanted to shout out Pistons Turkey. Camille here says, sorry, I'll just let it. Do you think we have a shooting problem in a scenario where we select Wemby? Can we solve it? Yeah. Do you think we have a shooting problem if we select Wemby? And then I think basically it's just saying if we bring in Jordan Hawkins, could that help with some of the shooting?
Well, I don't think they're going to land Jordan Hawkins. I don't know what the scenario is to get another first round pick to land Hawkins. Like it sounds like Hawkins is a borderline lottery pick at this point. I don't think there's spacing issues with Wemby. You play Wemby at the 4. So in that scenario, you're probably starting Cade, Ivy, Boyan, Wemby, and Duren. I think your spacing is fine. I believe Cade's going to be a much better 3-point shooter coming back from fixing his injury. Boyan, obviously, we know how he spaces the floor. Ivy shoots it well enough. And again, Wemby, I think, is going to be a mid-30s 3-point shooter, in his rookie season. So, no, I think it's going to be okay. I wouldn't be overly concerned about that.
I think you're on mute, Wes.
There was my rookie moment. No, so I was just saying, I think I agree with it not really being an issue. You look at Stewart, who played a lot of minutes at the 4, right? I know early on it was really high, but he kind of did crater off there at the end. And I still didn't think largely that spacing was too big of a problem as long as a good wing shooter was out there with him. So, yeah, you play Wemby at the 4, just being over 30% and then having decent guard and wing shooters is more than enough to have decent spacing.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll be interested to see, like, if, Bryce touched on before, if Wembenyama's getting the ball in the mid-post area, how do teams sort of defend Cade off ball, Jaden off ball? We know Boyan will be defended closely. That'll be the thing for me, because I know Jaden, I think he ended up the second half of the year shooting 36% on threes. I'm sure that was probably a touch higher on catch and shoot looks. But for me, it'll just be like, as well, like, I'm sure they can make the shots. Like, I believe in Cade's shot as well, but how do defenses sort of set up against those five? But I think the spacing, with the percentages and stuff, I think that should be fine. That's just something I'll be interested to look at.
I'm pretty sure Jaden's catch and shoot numbers were really good too. Like specifically his unguarded catch and shoot 3-point numbers were good. Again, I would expect Cade to be there. I know you're talking about with Wemby having the ball in his hands, but Wemby's 3-point shooting numbers are way better synergy-wise on open catch and shoot opportunities. I know everybody's are, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are all okay if they're, taking off the dribble jumpers, maybe you're not super confident. But if they're just in the corner on the wing at the top of the key spacing the floor, I even think I buy into Jaden Ivey in that situation. And all he has to do is shoot it well enough that teams close out, and then we know what he can do after that. And it's the same thing with Cade. So I don't think those guys are guys where you're just like, nah, we're not going to guard him. We'll go double and not even rotate to him. So, I'll also say this. Even whenever we saw the two big lineup with like Bagley and Duren or Bagley and Wiseman, whoever it was, what it really forced guys to do was they weren't able to get all the way to the rim. But Ivy and Cade are so good in the mid-range, I'm not sure that for stretches of a game that necessarily matters. You don't want that the whole game, but for stretches, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'd just add too, like, with Ivy specifically, guys that athletic, you can't necessarily sag off so much. I mean, we saw it really with Hami, right? He didn't shoot a three for, I think, a 2-month stretch, but you still didn't have teams sitting in the paint when they're off ball and when Hami was off ball. That's because if he got the ball and you even took a step towards him, he's going right around you. He's that type of athlete. So you do kind of have to stay around just so that you can play defense if he does get it. And Ivy's kind of on a similar level. So even like if his percentage were to really fall off in year 2 and he's in the upper 20s, like generally speaking, it's not like you'd be playing Ben Simmons defense on Jaden Ivey. So it wouldn't break the back, I think, in my opinion, especially like you were saying with the mid-range being an asset.
So real quick, this year with the Pistons, he shot 47% on unguarded catch and shoot, and it was like 25% unguarded. So, I mean, again, you'd want it a little better, but you can't leave him wide open. If you go back to his sophomore year at Purdue, he shot 41% on unguarded, 33% unguarded. So, like, there's a track record now of him shooting, good enough. Like, if you're over 40%, even on unguarded catch and shoot, that's not something teams are going to want to give up, and he was close to 50% in his rookie season. He's a tireless worker. Like, I anticipate that will continue to roll. So I think Ivy's going to be good enough. Again, I believe in it with Cade as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, quickly then.
Oh, you go, Wes.
Oh, go ahead, Jack. I was going to ask a different question. So
I was just going to finish. I'm really... Because, look, I haven't dug into much Cade high school stuff. In fact, I've really done nothing, to be honest. So, but from what I've heard, was his 1 year at Oklahoma State, was that 40%? Like, that's the best he's ever shot from three? That's what people seem to say. So
that was the outlier, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be a good shooter, or at least a league average shooter from three. But it's going to be really interesting to see. Because I've even heard people like Sam Vecini talk about ankle injuries and leg injuries and how that affects your jump shot. I know that sounds obvious, but so he's dealt with the shin injury and that sprained ankle in his rookie year. Like, fingers crossed he can have a healthy off season, and the jumper comes around. Because oftentimes last season it just looked really flat, and it sometimes just didn't look like he's getting enough lift, whereas on the pull-ups, he gets enough lift because he's dribbling and going into it, and that looks really smooth. But on the catch and shoot, sometimes it was just a bit flat. especially from three.
Okay, so real quick, his Montverde season on Synergy has 16 games. He shot 50% from three overall in those 16 games, just 44 attempts, but he shot 61% on unguarded catch and shoot attempts in those 16 games. That's at Mount Verde too. Like that's a high level, high school.
High school.
Where's this outlier talk coming from then?
So that's what I'm looking at now. So his Nike EYBL, less games, but this was just 13 attempts, 54% on uncontested catch and shoot.
Hey.
And then
Is
at
it a
Oklahoma
team then?
Maybe at Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State, he shot 40% overall. A ton of them were off the dribble, obviously.
Right.
He actually only shot 39% on unguarded catch and shoot, 50% on guarded catch and shoot. So there's a track record though of him being able to make catch and shoot jumpers from the three.
Yeah, we've just debunked a false narrative.
We did. Maybe it's all branched off of he wasn't seen as a shooter coming into college, right? He was seen more of a playmaker who could kind of shoot here and there, but it was low volume, so they didn't give him much credit. And then he blows up. And then now that's shifted into he couldn't shoot at all in high school.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff I did watch, I think was his under 19s with Team USA maybe, or under 18s. And he just was pass first, like in those clips I watched. Like he passed the ball a lot. So maybe some of that's derived as well from him being a pass first guy potentially. But yeah, that's strange. Because that's something you see a lot. So
Team USA, he went 1 of 14 from three. So maybe if people are just taking it from that, like, I guess. But like I say, the Montverde numbers are really what stick out to me. Because like I say, that's 16 games, but he only shot 44 total. So what's that? That's 2.5 a game, a little more than 2.5 a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's really good percentage, but pretty low volume. So,
yeah. Got you. All right. Well, I might jump to the next question here. It's our favorite question. It's once again from Pistons Turkey. Who's our head coach wish? Bryce, I know this is a favorite of yours. You've been very vocal on socials about who you want to be coach. So I'll hand you the mic first.
I don't care. Next.
Come on, for the content.
Oh, man.
I will admit, whenever this all happened, I did a ton of research. Charles Lee, for whatever reason, was the name that stood out. Like it just, I don't even have a rationale for it, to be honest with you. The thing I liked was he was a hot name as assistant 3 years ago, and he didn't get hired right away, but he stayed as a hot name. I guess there's just so much unknown with this, like there's so much unknown in general with all of this that we talk about. I think this is even beyond what we can imagine. Like we can say whatever we want. We have no idea what these guys are going to do. We have no idea how they run offenses. Like I saw people giving Chris Quinn credit for the Miami Heat, sideline out of bounds last night. One, it wasn't even that creative of a play. And two, like, do we even know? Like, it only worked because Jimmy Butler shoved the dude and then scored the ball. Like, that's why it worked. So, I don't know. I just don't care.
I just need to add something because, so look, I will admit, like, I push out a lot of clips of players and have to share my thoughts. I'm all for content and, talking Pistons and putting out content, sharing your thoughts. Like, this is not me talking down or I'm not better than anyone at all. But one thing that has just absolutely killed me online is people posting clips of Charles Lee talking in scrimmages, like mic'd up.
Is he really doing that, Jack? Is that really a thing?
It's like, just like Charles Lee, it's like, I don't know, man. It's made me laugh. Like we're sharing clips of coaches like talking mic'd up, like, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Go for it. Like, I love the content, but it just makes me laugh.
Here's my thing. People will critique Kevin Ollie because he hasn't coached. Like, None of these dudes that are left have ever been an NBA head coach. We literally have no idea what any of them will be as the NBA head coach, because I don't care what Charles Lee is as an assistant coach. It's a completely different role. We've seen dudes who have been great assistant coaches across sports and fail as head coaches. I mean, there's some people who are just really good at being it's a completely different role. And so it's so hard. And I think all of the info that you need to make this decision is all behind the scenes and stuff that we don't have access to.
Yeah, and like this isn't the place to air out grievances or whatever, but on Twitter I had someone trying to convince me that Charles Lee or Collins would be less of a risk, less of a gamble than Kevin Ollie somehow. And I'm just like, as you just said, none of them have been an NBA head coach before. What do you mean it's less of a risk? It's total projection no matter what.
Ollie has at least been a head coach. I mean,
Hey,
again, it's not projectable because it was college, but I still feel like Ollie gets a bad rap because of, oh, well, he didn't get a job for 5 years. He wasn't hireable in the college ranks because of the show clause from recruiting violations that wouldn't even be recruiting violations in today's college basketball. I'm not excusing it. He messed up. He got in trouble. He should have, all of that. But don't give me the nobody would hire him. Nobody gets hired under the show clause in college basketball. Nobody's getting hired under those circumstances.
Yeah, it's look, I love all Pistons fans. I love the content. I love most of the discussion. So, but I've really enjoyed the back and forth with the coaching stuff, because ultimately there are very, very few people that probably know the ins and outs of what's going on behind closed doors, if anyone. So, but I guess to answer the question, I honestly, truthfully, will be happy with either of the three candidates. Feels like we're going to get an announcement next week. And though they said there might be more interviews, I believe it feels like it's going to be out of Collins. Is it Ollie or Ollie? Do you hold the O a bit longer?
he's just
and then the final one, obviously Charles Lee. So I'll honestly be happy with any of those three. That's my honest answer.
Here's my best connection is Collins' brother was represented by Arn Tellem whenever Tellem was an agent. There you go. There's my there's my connection for Collins, which absolutely means absolutely nothing. But I was researching Tellem and all the people that he represented and came across that he represented Jason Collins. So
yeah, I guess the answer for mine, I'm just with you, Jack. Whatever they do, whoever it is, I'm sure we're all gonna convince that it was a great idea. And then now, as a positive for you and I guess we can clip up this segment and become the pro Kevin Ollie people on online now. We can spin it and aggregate it, I'm sure.
You know what I'm interested in that nobody's talking about
Content.
is what's going to happen to the assistant coaches. Where whenever they hire this guy, is Rex going to stay around? Is Jerome Allen going to stay around? What are going to happen to those guys? That's everybody on staff, right? I mean, so I think that's the aspect of it that I'm interested in, probably even more so than who they hire. It'll be, okay, who's he keeping around? Is Rashard Lewis going to stay around? Those type of guys. What's going to happen with them.
So I've actually kind of got a theory on this, and it's based on absolutely nothing. So, grain of salt. But I think the high level coaches, I kind of feel like they're going to be out because usually the assistants are determined by the head coach, right? If you just got hired as the head coach of the Detroit Pistons, would you want to keep around two guys that also interviewed for the position that were assistants under a guy that helped hire you? I wouldn't. I kind of think Allen and Kalamian are out. I mean, the rest of them, it's whatever. It could be whatever they want, right? But I think those two, I'd just be uncomfortable with it if I were hired as the head coach, right? It'd be kind of weird.
The front of bench guys, yeah. Who else was on the front of bench? Obviously, those two.
Those are the two top guys.
And there was also, I'm forgetting his name. This is
Jim
bad, but
Jim
the tall
Moran.
guy. Yeah, Jim Moran. That was the other one.
Oh, right. Yep.
But I mean, if I literally wouldn't take the job if I didn't have full control over who my staff was. And I assume that's going to be the case. And who knows, like there may be some pre-existing relationships, or maybe then whoever gets hired interviews Kalamian and all of these guys and decides to keep them around. But there's already going to be a little bit of awkwardness with Dwayne Casey still being there, right? So to your point, Wes, not only is Casey in the front office that are making decisions around this, but then you have his assistants on staff with you. Like, I have no idea that everybody would be, or I have no doubt that everybody would be professional, just because it seems like that's how things have gone, at least the 3 years I've been around. But it's still, like you said, there'd be a little bit of awkwardness to that.
Yeah, for sure. It's. I feel like, do you guys get the sense we'll find out next week? I feel like we will. I mean, the Rockets' Ime was announced this week. Like one thing, actually, a question I've seen sort of online is people sort of, if Coach Bard was to be fired, which, I mean, DBB had an article dropped today just diving into that. But do you see the Pistons even considering one of those more senior coaches? Or do you think these three candidates are it?
So I'm not sure that these three candidates are it. I mean, they've left the door open to interview more. Regardless of what anyone wants to believe with Budenholzer, if he'd be a great coach, or if any of the like former head coaches would be a great coach in Detroit, it just doesn't seem like that's the type of coach they're interviewing and that they're interested in hiring. So like ultimately it seems like it'd be a pretty big shift in the direction they're looking at if they were to bring someone like that in. So I just feel like it's probably unlikely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Well, sorry, I think were you going to say something, Bryce? I think as we sort of touched on, the three guys we just spoke about all are yet to be NBA head coaches. So, yeah, I've seen some people even throw out Nick Nurse's name. I'm like, not with Dwayne Casey in the head office. That ain't happening.
That'd be too awkward twice.
The next question we have here, another one for Bryce, because we know there's a bit of a, how can I say this? I guess we'll just read the question. What up, Doe? What up, Harry? Thanks for the question. This ain't a real question, but what would you give up for Jimmy Buckets to be a Piston?
I don't appreciate how you started this, Jack. No, let me say this, guys. And for anybody who doesn't know, my wife has a huge crush on Jimmy Butler, and so that's the joke behind the scenes here.
That's the joke.
He was insane the other night. I think I even tweeted something positive about him, and I don't even care. I could care less who won that series, who played well, anything. I couldn't have cared less. But he was incredible I know he was good what would have been last night, but so it must have been Monday. I mean, he was just insane. So yeah, man, this is definitely the storyline of the NBA playoffs right now. And I'd give up a digit for him to be a Piston. I would not give up anything. I wouldn't even give up Buddy Boeheim for him to be a Piston. But Jimmy Butler is incredible.
Yeah, he is. And the playoff series he just had is ridiculous. So I mean, yeah, you'd love the opportunity to get him on Detroit. It'd take probably more than the Pistons have to offer to make that happen, with how he's just putting Miami on his back and going to the next round. So awesome player though. He's fun. I love watching him.
Yeah, he's incredible. Like, truthfully, I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of the past weeks. I've been moving house, but like, I've just seen clips of him really getting up into Drew Holiday's face, and like, you just love that. Like, I don't know. I don't have any great analysis. I just love the sort of the passion and like he's just a full blown competitor. Like
He told Drew Holiday he owned him down 6 with 2.5 minutes to go in the game. Like, that's crazy. That's when people are saying that with like 30 seconds to go and they just iced it. Jimmy was saying it down 6 with 2.5 minutes to go. And I saw a crazy stat today. He has like no 40-point games in the regular season in his career, but has how many ever in the like all of his 40-point games are in the playoffs, none in the regular season.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's got mentality-wise, he's got to be like closest to modern day KG or Kobe or something like that. Because he's just, yeah, he's something else competitively.
Like you really don't see, like I could be wrong here. I'm sure people pull up clips, but you really don't see like Drew Holiday's regarded as the best perimeter defender. Like I think even on that athletics poll, like the players voted him like top defender. Like you really normally don't see guys getting in his face. Like there's a mutual respect there. Like normally when you see people going back and forth, it's players on different levels or the Dylan Brooks sort of stuff, even though that also is discussion itself. But yeah, and because Drew comes across as more a reserve guy on court. Once again, don't watch a lot of Bucks, could be wrong, but just to see him in his face, like you said, Bryce, down 6, like that's confidence, that's competitiveness. That's what I love about the sport the most. Like talking crap to someone and then dominating them. Like,
did you guys see the Giannis post-game answer?
Loved it. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. Were you guys okay with the question?
yes.
Oh yeah, I didn't have a problem with the question either.
But you liked his answer.
Yep.
Yeah, because after he said he was upset with the question, he got into the mentality it takes to keep being so great. And I just thought the perspective he had on it was really honest and really good too. So yeah, I was a big fan of the answer.
My thing. I thought he had an awesome answer, but because of that, it kind of pisses me off. He was mad about the question. Like someone tried to tell me today it was a loaded question. I said, no, it's not. There's all sorts of different ways to answer that question. And Giannis proved that. Like he answered the question without saying whether it was or was not, essentially. I mean, I guess technically he said it wasn't, but I mean, to me, a loaded question is one that you can't really give an answer to because you're going to look bad one way or like, hey, Jack, are you going to win tomorrow night? Well, now you either say yes and sound arrogant or say no and don't sound confident. To me, that's a low. So I thought it was a very fair question, but yes, I also agree. I do think it was a great answer. I also do think it was a failed season for the Bucks for whatever it's worth.
Yeah. Well, I think so. The reporter that asked the question, I think he's the beat reporter from the Bucks, from the Athletics. Sorry. So, and I know going back 4 or 5 seasons, the Bucks have only really had 2 beat reporters from what I've read. So, like, I think there's like an established relationship there between Giannis and the reporter, and it's sort of just like what the hell, are you really asking me this? Like, because in that moment, like Giannis obviously was frustrated, like, so I thought he gave a really good answer. I still thought as good as the answer was, as honest, like he still sort of like didn't acknowledge it was like, it was a failure this season, but he answered it in a brilliant way. And I like both the question and answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I took it, I guess, as this is way too much psychoanalyzing. But it was, yes, disappointing, right, that they didn't get the outcome that they wanted. But you can't necessarily let that, like you define it as a failure as a competitor. That's a bigger deal. So if he's kind of dodging it, it's not a failure. We're going to come back next year. We're going to improve. Journey's still going on. Like long-term view. I like the long-term perspective. So. But for whatever it's worth, like you guys said, I mean, that was a 1 seed losing to a play-in team. So I mean, that's not what they had in mind, at the very least.
Yeah, it's the first time since 2012, and I'm pretty sure when Philly beat the Bulls that season, that was when Derrick Rose hurt his ACL again. Mm-hmm. So, like, this is really, like, it's a shock. Like, I can't believe the Bucks are out. I thought the score, I was like, my app was crashed or something.
Yeah, they were actually my pick to win it. So, oops.
Feels like they were everyone's.
Well, before we wrap it up, how about that? I mean, the Lakers are giving the Grizzlies a run too. How about these play-in teams kind of making some noise? I didn't necessarily see that coming.
Oh, well, a lot of people pick the Lakers to sort of get by the Grizz, and I'll be honest, like I've sort of kept a pretty close eye on the Lakers outside the Pistons, mainly because West Coast games are easier for me to watch over here. But yeah, it's sort of I'm still a little bit surprised, like with how that series played out. I think I just blindly thought, the Grizz closed the season well, and got Jar back, but I don't know. There's something about me, like I just love seeing LeBron in the playoffs. Like Pistons fans can hate on me for that, but having him in the playoffs with the Lakers just seems right.
Yeah, no, what is it going to be? You have the Knicks Heat. One of those two are going to go to the conference finals in the East. And in the West, you may have a Warriors Lakers, which I know are big names, but it's the 6 and the 7 seed. So I think it's really interesting. I don't know if you just call it parity, if it's just a weird year where some of the Lakers ended up here because of the injuries they dealt with, but then finally made the right trades at the deadline. Remember the beginning of the year when everybody was like, what if the Lakers win the lottery, win the lottery, but it goes to the Pelicans and the Pelicans get to pick Wemby. And now the Pelicans aren't even going to use the pick swap because their pick's going to be higher. The Warriors, same thing, right? Like some injury stuff. And like at this point, they just don't care about the regular season. The Bucks one is the crazy upset, right? Like what do you guys think about the Cavs? I think that I don't want to say it was a failure for them, but to me, this result had to be a underachievement. Do you guys agree? Or it's like, hey, it's the first year of this iteration of the team. Maybe anything more than the first round is too high expectations.
Oh, you're on mute again, Wes.
That kind of night. No, I'm right there with you. I think it kind of has to be an underachievement. I mean, when you make the move to get Donovan Mitchell, right? That's we're going for it right now sort of deal. I mean, it doesn't matter that that whole team's young. They're going to be good for a long time. So like as far as setbacks go, it's not like this is going to cripple the franchise or something. They're still going to be a great team next year. But yeah, I don't see how it couldn't be a bit of an underachievement. They should have beat the Knicks. They're more talented, I think. So
Yeah, you would at least expect it to go more than 5 games. And I guess watching sort of Mitchell Robinson, the way he handled Allen and Mobley, I guess even at both ends, like you want it, like I guess like the cop-out answer could be like, oh, put Mobley to the center, but I don't think he's ready for that. He's still so like skinny and needs to like develop into his frame or at least just play stronger. And he's going to be a really good player. But yeah, I think you have to say it's an underachievement. I thought they would probably win that series, but just to go out even in 5 games for sure has to be underwhelming.
for sure.
I guess before we go, guys, I want to get Bryce's and both of your opinion. Just like we were talking about Wemby to open the show, and we've spoken about Jalen Duren a fair bit. How did you guys see Isaiah Stewart's year 3? Like in terms of expectations, and then how do you project him next season? Just to finish off here.
Yeah, I try to always reflect, and some people have called out Isaiah Stewart. Last time I was with you guys, Sean Corp and other people, or maybe I was watching you guys. Yeah, I was watching. I wasn't on, obviously. And so whenever people are that, I don't want to say aggressive, but have that hard of opinions on Stu and not that excited, I like try to, okay, is he just this likable guy that I'm giving a pass to? And so I'm trying to reflect, but I still think he's a good defender. I think he has a lot of versatility. I think he's kind of this emotional leader that every team needs. I do think that stuff is important. And I thought he showed progress with the outside game this year. I mean, he went from less than 1 3-point attempt to like 4 and shot it at 33%. So I think this is a huge year for him, Jack. I guess to answer your question, I think we really find out this season, can he really shoot it? Can he handle it a little bit? Can he pass it a little bit? Is the defensive versatility really that good? And so I think you find out a lot about him this season, but I'm still kind of confident and optimistic in him.
Yeah, no, I am too. I liked what I saw from him. I mean, even the jump shot, the fact, it dropped a little bit there at the end, right? But, or I guess a lot of it, but it still looked good. He still looked confident taking it. That hasn't always been the case, especially as we've been ramping this up. And I think a lot of people, when they're critiquing him, kind of forget we were all hoping for maybe 2 to 3 attempts per game, and he was letting like 5 of them go a night. Even when he was in a slump. So just the fact that he had that confidence in the shot and still shot it pretty well, that gives me some confidence that that's going to keep growing as a skill. And then, I mean, I buy in 100% to the defensive versatility. So I think to answer your question directly, like if you get Wemby and you push Stewart immediately to that third big role where I think he ends up long term anyway and really excels at, I mean, that's about as perfect a situation as you could ask for, in my opinion, with Stewart, with the front court in general, just all around.
Yeah, for sure. I think like what Bryce said, we are like year 4 is a big year. And I think whilst I'm a believer in Stu contributing this team when it's winning, I think he will be here. Like this is year 4, and it's like how much time do we devote to development? Like year 4 is, definitely going. I can't see Stu getting extended this offseason. I wouldn't be surprised. So year 4 is going to be like a contract year for Stu. And yeah, how much time do we put into development? How much time is it just, okay, we'll put you in for rebounding, defense, and a bit of offense? Like, it's a really pivotal year. And it's going to be really interesting. Like we said, we saw the flashes off the bounce. We saw him make some passes to Duran, like bit of big to big stuff, but it all still felt sort of fresh and new. So definitely going to be a player to keep an eye on.
Okay, I got to show this because this is proof of why I hate Jimmy Butler. So this is from my wife. So I'm recording in the bedroom, obviously talking loud enough that she can hear me. And that's the text message she sends me. I do want to she said we, so you see how much of a Pistons fan she has become.
Love to see it.
I'll take it.
No, look, I feel your pain, Bryce, a little bit. Like my girlfriend, she loves Killian. Killian's her favorite. Like you'll see.
Oh yeah.
You'll see.
I was upset, but I was happy when Blake Griffin left. Same reason.
Well, look, guys, I think we'll wrap it up here. I appreciate those that have tuned in. I know that the NFL draft's on tonight. It's a big night for Lions fan. It as someone who doesn't follow the NFL, but I've got a lot of Detroit people on my timeline, I hope the draft goes well. I know this is probably one of the most exciting off seasons for the Lions in a long time. So, but thank you to those that have tuned in. Thanks to Bryce for the breakdown. We're going to have more of those to come. And thanks to my co-host, West. And finally, thank you to Sean Korb, the managing editor of DBB. He's the guy who makes this happen. And join us next Thursday from 8 o'clock. And we can't wait to talk more Pistons hoops with you.